Oh, we got AOC and Hasan. Let's watch this.
I want to tell AOC.
Oh, here we go. What's up? What's up?
Going to let this continue.
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
For
You're on
more than
screen
10
now.
years,
You're
they
on
couldn't
camera.
get it open.
All right,
It was
cool. Hey, buddy.
a
Have you ever
couldn't get
seen
it
one of these
finished. They
before,
couldn't get
Hasan?
it built.
Have I ever seen one of these what?
One of these rallies before?
Yes.
Like-
Not in person, but I used to watch all of the Trump rallies back in the day.
I've never done one of these like all the way through.
I used to
Dude, they're
watch,
so
all
painful.
of the rallies, all
The Trump
way through,
rallies.
like so
oh
many
my
of them.
God.
I.
So if you
It's
watch
insane that
all
she's
these
hanging out on his stream.
things that like you notice about Trump's tendencies in these rallies that don't get talked about very often.
It's always it's always the same. He always brings up the same stuff. Like he has he does like a comedian. He has like a tight hour.
He does. He has the greatest hits. Some of the things that Trump does at every rally. He does something about the cars, the auto workers. He lies about the unions liking him, and he says that you're going to have gas vehicles. No one's going to force you to get an electric vehicle. He says, drill, baby, drill. He talks about energy production in America and being energy independent, even though we're more energy independent under Biden. And in fact, the U.S. has been drilling more oil under Biden than ever in the history of the United States. The other thing Trump talks about is some doubling down of immigrants being animals or being bad or being horrible for the country. The border, he had the best border. Maybe he shows the picture with the border during the pandemic. So it's all about the border. He does the little weightlifting thing, right? Trump does, right? He does his accordion hands. At some point, he gets going. What else? What else are we leaving behind? Occasionally, he will go on the rant about Chris Christie, calling him a fat pig. He always talks about prices in some way, that they're, 50, 60, 70, 80%, or the price of a loaf of bread is quadrupled, right?
That he rolls out every single time.
Every
We literally
time.
have like sometimes we'll have like bingo. Like we'll play bingo and gamble on with fake points on whether or not he's going to say certain things, but it's very predictable. It's always the same stuff. It's always like anti-immigrant screed. I would say that in recent years his anti-immigrant stuff has gotten even more wild. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he'll hit that and talk about like undocumented immigrants or whatever here.
Absolutely.
Usually he's just very sassy and, I guess very telegenic and very charismatic to that audience specifically. Whenever he talks about his own personal gripes like hairspray or things of that nature.
As you know, then I renovated Grand Central Terminal. I built the Grand Hyatt Hotel on 42nd Street and Park Avenue. And as part of that, I renovated the beautiful Grand Central Terminal, did a really good job of that. And then I was very much responsible
Dude,
for the
he's such a
construction.
It's
putz.
ironic when he talks about all these constructions and it's like all of it is like riddled with scandal where he refused to pay contractors on a regular
Dude, he
basis.
never pays
It's
his
like what
bills.
Everybody in New York knows this. Like, he
Yeah.
knew it far before he ran for president. Like,
Yeah, see, AOC brings up a really good point here, guys. A lot of people aren't aware, but people in New York have known how crooked he is for the longest fucking time. Nobody in New York likes this guy. Eventually, it got to the point of where nobody in New York would invite him to parties. Nobody in New York would loan him any money. And he would just keep showing up like an STD or some shit. Everybody knew he was crooked. He had the worst reputation.
so my dad was an architect. He had this small business in the Bronx, and so he was always we're always at these job sites, and we're with contractors, and we're with the unions and the workers and stuff like that, trying to figure out like what housing that can be built in the area and whatnot. And it was known to everybody in the 90s
Everybody.
that anyone who worked in real estate or construction or anything like this always knew that like you shouldn't, especially if you were a smaller guy or smaller business,
You'll never get paid.
should not do business with this dude because he just fleeced everybody.
You
He just,
won't
like,
get paid.
was always not paying bills, screwing people over. Every single person knew this and like how corrupt he was as well. And I mean, he went broke in Atlantic City. This guy has gone broke so many times.
6
And
bankruptcies.
it's just been like this shell game of trying to figure out who can lend him more and more money.
And in fact, I want to interject here while she says the shell game. What he did in Atlantic City was criminal. He went in there and he got a whole bunch of investors and he invested in a casino, and then he didn't pay any of the laborers, family-owned cabinet makers, designing the cabinets under the slot machines and designing the bars and the restaurants and doing all this fine work. And what ended up happening was he didn't pay any of those people and then taking money from those investors, sinking it into his other businesses, buying a whole bunch of through his businesses at elevated prices, paying himself $800,000 a year, and then he bankrupted it. But he walked away with millions, tens of millions, him and his companies. And all the investors walked away with nothing. He completely f***ed them over. It was insane. And then 1,000 lawsuits that he would just drag out because he has legal teams. They're on retainer and they just keep dragging him out until they settle.
And it's just been like this shell game of trying to figure out who can lend him more and more money while he tries to like con someone else out of it. And he's gone, what? Like, how old is this guy now? Like
77.
Is he 80 something? He's in his 80s now. Like, just having lived his whole life without a real job. Yeah.
7 bankruptcies. All right.
Bankrupted a casino, which is like, that's actually kind of.
It's impressive. It is. Dude, to bankrupt a casino, like.
Debate with crooked Joe Biden on CNN.
By the way, even when you look at his name, Crooked Joe Biden, dude, 8 years ago, he was using Crooked Hillary. He's not even creative or talented in coming up with interesting names. He's a fucking tool, bro.
With Fake Tapper. And I think they'll be fair. Does anybody think they'll be fair? I might be. No. That's all right.
His nicknames are like 8th grade level.
Like to set up tables
Jake
so you
Tapper,
sit down.
Fake
I said, I don't
Tapper.
wanna sit
Come
down.
on.
So we're not sitting
Donnie.
down. We're going to be standing up for the debate. And here's what you know.
It should be reminded to everyone that he almost killed Joe Biden last time when he had COVID and was like,
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He like, is that what he did?
Dude, that's really an important point that Hasan brings up here. They had a debate and Donald Trump was on stage with Joe Biden. Donald Trump had COVID and didn't even say anything. He didn't let anybody know. He tested positive for COVID and he went and did a maskless debate with Joe Biden in 2020 when 80,000 people a month were dying. Isn't that crazy? That alone is disqualifying, bro. Unbelievable. Who would do that? But an absolute horror show.
to everyone that he almost killed Joe Biden last time when he had COVID and was like,
Yeah, that's right. He like,
he's
is that
trying
what
to
he
do
did? He had
biological
COVID
He had COVID.
and like didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Dude.
Biden, come on, be a man. I'm coughing into it.
All of them. So Russia
Dude.
going into Ukraine would have never happened. None of this stuff that you see would have
my
happened.
God.
Israel would have never happened.
Yeah.
The attack on October. You wouldn't have had
Again,
inflation.
Israel's
As soon
direct
as I get
consequence
back
of
into
the Abraham
Oval
Accords and many of Jared Kushner's and Donald Trump administration's actions, like moving the embassy to Jerusalem.
It's a huge
He
thing
is
right there.
just as responsible for October 7 as anyone else. The fact that he is saying like Israel would have never happened, October 7 would have never happened, is ridiculous when it directly happened as a direct consequence of him moving to Jerusalem, the annexed territory of Golan Heights as Israeli territory, going against international law, and also conducting the Abraham Accords, completely sidestepping the Palestinians from the conversation. That is a major reason.
very happy. We were the most respected country in the world.
Yeah.
4 years ago, we were respected more than our country was ever respected.
I really think what Hasan says here is super important. Very much so. What is going on in the Middle East was set up by decisions Donald Trump made. And Donald Trump would let Israel genocide every last Palestinian person in that country as long as they let him build a hotel on the shore of Gaza. Gaza has unbelievable waterfront property. And he and Jared Kushner, they would let them steamroll the whole country. Same with Ukraine. They would give Ukraine to Russia and be like, what else do you want? I mean, they let Saudi Arabia bonesaw Khashoggi, and then they just gave Jared $2 billion to bail him out of that building.
When it directly happened as a direct consequence of him moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing the annexed territory of Golan Heights as Israeli territory, going against international law, and also conducting the Abraham Accords, completely sidestepping the Palestinians from the conversation. That is a major reason.
Very happy. We were the most respected country in the world 4 years ago. We
Dude.
were respected more than our country was ever respected 4 years ago. And now we're being
Dude.
laughed at. We're like a
Do you
joke.
feel like
And that's
the
not
way
gonna
he
happen.
in this
That's
has
not gonna happen.
changed?
We're going to do
Like when
whatever
you're
it takes to
watching
fix our
him
roads, bridges, and
conduct
highways.
this now
We're
and the
going
way
to
he
take
used to
back
do
our
his
votes,
rallies,
not
have
just
they
for
have they
children, but
changed
for
much at all, or have they
everybody.
remained pretty
We're going to
consistent?
rent a
It's pretty
subway
consistent. I
system
mean, their
so it
laughing
no
at
longer
us
looks
narrative
like-
is pretty funny because
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, like one, America and its like global influence certainly got
Dude.
worse under the Trump administration. But beyond that, he also used to say exactly that about Obama. Like he would say that was like
Right.
a major point,
He
major
did.
talking point for him in his earlier rallies all the way since 2016. He has definitely
Everybody in the
he's
world
gotten boring,
hated
and
Trump.
he also no longer
Yeah.
has the outsider effect that made him, especially against someone like Hillary Clinton, made him seem like an interesting person that people
Yeah,
could
like
bet on.
refreshing.
But when he was president for 4 years, people still remember it, all the chaos and all the instability.
Dude, that's huge. The chaos and the instability are huge. Every day his administration was removing people, firing someone. There was some kind of scandal, some sort of crazy chaos every day, day in and day
It
out.
becomes a lot harder to maintain that outsider's posture.
Jeez, it was nuts.
Are before me today. We are going to make life in New York affordable again. It's gotten totally out of control.
Oh, here we go.
The minute crooked Joe Biden shuffles out the door, I will rapidly rebuild the greatest economy in the history of the world. Look, we had the greatest economy in history. Everybody here, where you have a small business or if you had a job, you were getting more than you ever made, and we had no inflation.
You didn't. You weren't getting more than you ever made. Minimum wages all going up to 15 an hour has been recent. Fast food wages sometimes going up to $20, $22 an hour has been recent. Inflation sucks. No doubt about it. Inflation does suck. But one of the things we have to keep in mind with inflation is A, it's the pandemic has a little to do with that. But B, one of the things that has to be paid attention to is this chart that I'm about to show you. This is McDonald's gross profit 2010 to 2024. Now look at this thing. Here's where Donald Trump takes office in about 2017. See how small these green lines are? This is the quarterly growth. They took a huge hit during the pandemic. Initially, their quarterly growth went way down. But look at this. This is Biden. Look at how big the growth has been, the comeback from this. You see the growth down there? Look at the growth up here. Look at their profits. Their profits since Biden took over in 2021 have just shredded. Why are the prices going up? This is in response to somebody talking about the end of 2019 price and the mid 2024 price. But it ain't because of Biden. They're making more money than they ever have, like double what they were making under Trump. They have been jacking prices. They have been responding to this by just expanding their growth and taking advantage of this global inflation, this sort of pseudo recession. And in fact, maybe some of these corporations might even want Donald Trump back in because they know that there's no taxes and no regulations, especially a company like McDonald's. The way McDonald's operates is they have their own farms. They have their own dairies. They have their own companies that make their packaging. McDonald's is a corporation where every facet of the McDonald's line, from the beef to the eggs to the chicken is all in the McDonald's thing. They don't buy their chicken from a chicken producer. They don't buy their beef from a beef producer. They handle all of that. So for them, it's very attractive to have tax breaks and to have no regulations. Because if they remove a whole bunch of regulation, every aspect of their business gets better. All of the parts of their vast empire benefit from those lower regulations. These multinational conglomerates, they're fleecing us. McDonald's is fleecing us. And so is Exxon and Shell and Mobil and Kroger. It is entirely possible that because of the wage gains under Biden, with higher wage guarantees in a lot of places and more union jobs and the auto workers winning contracts, that now that people have more money, the companies are like, fuck it, let's jack our prices. But the stock market, the Dow Jones is hitting record highs. The Dow Jones has been doing good, even after this huge collapse. There are a lot of indicators of our economy actually being healthy, and the prices not having anything to do with Joe Biden's direct involvement.
We had no 1.4%, considered none, considered better than none, because frankly, none in its own way is a bad thing. Number 1.4%.
This is the only avenue of attack against the Biden administration that is like actually pretty salient, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the inflation.
Universally, the number one thing both Democrats and Republicans criticize this administration on, despite the fact that inflation obviously is, I mean, there's many different ways of dealing with it, but we never engage in any sort of like, we never engage in legislative action to combat inflation. No deflationary mechanisms exist in the minds of American politicians for the most part, and only monetary policy. So
we had great people.
Exactly. I mean, and one of the best ways actually pursues with antitrust. Like, we need to break them up.
Dude.
We need to break up a lot of these massive corporations.
Dude, she is hugely right there. We definitely need antitrust legislation. When you go into a grocery store and everything in that grocery store is owned by 10 companies, they can just all jack prices and there's nothing you can do because it's huge conglomerates. The same with media companies. And then you have these massive conglomerates that may own, factories and farming and just tons of companies under those umbrellas and so on and so forth. And it's crazy. You get into things then like BlackRock, where they own huge portions of the stock market, and hedge funds. I think hedge funds gotta go, where a bunch of wealthy ass people pool their money together, start buying houses, buying farmland, buying aquifers. Dude, that's hugely problematic, man.
And companies and aggressive and going after them. And the one bright spot in this is Lena Khan at the FTC.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, DOJ today announcing that they're going after Ticketmaster.
That's big.
But Lena Khan at the FTC has been
going after Amazon.
Going after
There you go.
all of them, going after Amazon. They even went after certain consumer protections, like Rite Aid started rolling out the
Nice.
facial recognition AI in their
Like
cameras.
it.
And
Dude, they
it starts
tagged
just sending
Fortnite from
tons of
fleecing
people to
kids.
jail, and it's like notoriously unreliable, and
Let's
also
go.
there's a lot of algorithmic racial bias in these. But yeah, so they started going after them, and Rite Aid got a judgment against them. The problem is that we need more Democrats when we actually have the gavels in these places to do antitrust policy, and there's just like so much corrupt influences from these large
Gotta stop
lobbies,
people
especially
from
in tech.
corporations
I
need
actually
to
think
stop
there's,
buying
a huge
houses.
amount of
Yeah.
influence in tech.
That's huge.
And a lot of Democrats that take corporate money, I think that's one of the reasons why antitrust doesn't get as much legislative momentum. But we do have people, again, like Lena Khan, that are doing an awesome job.
They're the ones that are affected most by what's happening. Not only the fact that you've lost the use of your schools, your parks, and your hospitals. Joe Biden's inflation.
I love New Yorkers in the Bronx chanting "Build the Wall."
I was just gonna say, chanting "Build the
Build
wall."
the
in middle of
wall,
Bronx.
dude. Yeah, 8% white, and they're chanting "Build the wall." Like, sure, these are the Bronx, dude. 56% Hispanic, 8% white. They're chanting "Build the wall." Crazy. Now, there's one thing I want to add here is the chanting. Okay? The chanting, the USA's, build the wall, build the wall. I mean, I get if you're an incumbent and you're chanting 4 more years, right? I get that. Whatever. You're hyped. You're trying to get that second term. But this whole like pro-America, the USA chants and all that stuff's dumb, bro. I'm sorry. It's just dumb. It's like tokenism. It's like having a 20-foot American flag on your house, okay? Hanging up a flag or yelling USA or taking your hat off at the ball game is not showing patriotism. That's easy. You could be the schleppiest, laziest, most foul, disgusting, non-patriotic, horrible piece of shit on earth, and the amount of energy it takes to just take a flag out of a package and nail it to the outside of your house, that's like 2 seconds. It's easy. Hanging a flag is not patriotic. That's being tokenist. You know what patriotic is? It's running for office. It's becoming a voice fighting for the marginalized. It's seeing the problems we have in America and trying to actively be a part of the solution. Being patriotic is saying to your Republican and Democratic congresspeople, let's work together and get some good gun legislation to end school shootings. Let's work together and break up some of these huge conglomerates. Let's work together and get these hedge funds out of here. Have them stop buying houses and jacking up the housing prices. Let's work together and do something about the homeless, right? That's patriotism. Hanging a flag or driving around with a huge flag or wearing a hat that says, Go America, MAGA 69, that is not patriotic. That's lazy. It is. It's lazy. It's token. And it's funny, too, because the people who think that waving a flag around is somehow showing patriotism, those people are usually the ones that don't want to roll up their sleeves and actually do the hard work of making the country a more accessible place.
Bronx, it's insane.
People saying like people having anti-immigrant sentiment in New York, one of the most diverse places on the planet, is ridiculous.
Wall, and it was going to bid. We're going to add 200 miles of wall. It would have taken about 3 weeks. And then we had the rigged election. And you know what happened after the rigged election? They took the wall, and instead of putting it up, they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar.
Donald.
And I said, these people really do want to have an open border. And that's
this is another aspect. I mean, I am a lot more critical of the Biden administration, obviously very publicly, but this is another aspect of like the Trump conversation that is very frustrating, because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, well, you know, build the wall. Meanwhile, Biden has pushed through a funding mechanism that will literally complete the border wall while also simultaneously administration doing eminent domain too. In order to continue building the wall, which I think is both bad policy and bad politics in general. But these people don't care because, you know, they are operating on pure resentment. And that is partially the reason why we shouldn't ever capitulate to the right-wing framing on immigration, in my opinion.
It's true.
Absolutely. This is one of the issues that I think frustrates me the most, because this is where we see some of the most capitulation to the right. And the problem is that this resentment will never be fed. And so very often I'll see like Democrats trying to like play this political game, like this whole thing with HR2 and this border bill that with Republicans and trying to do this.
That is so well said. The right-wing resentment will never be fed. Even if they don't let any foreign people in, there's always going to be a right-wing resentment of immigration. Even looking at gay rights, the right-wing resented gay rights. There were no gay rights. People start fighting in the 80s. They come out. In the 90s, we have this revolution. They bring it out into the open. People are openly gay. In the 2000s, gay marriage is legal, but the right wing never stopped resenting. And then the minute they saw a gay character on TV, they got resentful. And then they saw 2. And then there's a gay character in the cartoon. And then there's a pride flag at school. And it's like their resentment was always there and unchanged. And the more gay people were able to be free and in the open, the more their resentment was roiled. They just started aiming it. Oh, why does there have to be a gay character in every show? Then they shifted it over to trans people. And now they're using trans sports. But it's very true. The right-wing resentment never goes away. They can't even aim it at individual things, which is why they lump it all under like a single word. That's why they use things like woke, because they can apply woke to anything. Anything the Democrats come up with. If the Democrats say we want to give people dental care, they will say dental care is woke. We want to stop polluting the river. Oh, that's woke. Their resentment is just in general to everything that is not Christian, nuclear, familial, 1950s, the white family in the suburbs, and everybody else just out on the fringes, allowed to exist as long as we can't see you. They don't care if you're gay as long as they can watch every TV show they want and never see a gay kiss. They don't care that you're black as long as you're not their boss, or they can go into their restaurant and there aren't too many of them in there. The resentment does not go away, and it's insatiable. That's why you don't want to give them an inch. You don't, because if you give them an inch, if you capitulate on one set of rights, then they will take more, because the resentment is never ending.
Whole thing about, oh, like we came up with a tough border bill and Republicans rejected it as though it was some kind of solution. But the problem is that we've been through so many cycles of this where Trump or Republicans in general or Fox News, they'll do this whole like racial panic thing and incite this whole sense of an emergency or chaos on the border. And then it resonates in Washington, D.C., and all these Democrats start freaking out, and they cobble together some bill that plows a bunch more money to CBP, plows a bunch more money into border facilities. And sometimes they will put money towards like some good things too. Like they will, all in the same bill, they will have money for CBP and ICE, but then they'll also put in a lot of money to like HHS and like the kids centers and like the humanitarian centers and stuff like that. But the problem is that none of this resource stuff solves the problem. Right now, CBP is the largest law enforcement force in the United States.
Dude, that's crazy.
The thing is like they'll pour and pour and pour all these resources, all these new technologies, everything. But the problem is not about money. The problem is that we don't have a path to citizenship in the United States.
Yeah, that's
And
huge.
It's
not
a matter
only
of
that,
processing. It's a processing issue, and they never talk about it. Or Democrats used to talk about it from the framework of like immigration is a problem. It's not even a problem at all, but it's like it's at its most it is a problem.
It's
with
an administrative
the legal status that these
thing.
people do not
Yeah.
have. The solution to it is to immediately open up pathways to citizenship. And then the undocumented migrants can also work alongside the documented workforce,
pay
and
taxes,
unionize, and be able to demand a larger piece of the pie. And yet it is maintained as a depressive force on the wages, specifically due to the legal status. And it's shocking to me that the Democratic Party across the board is now kind of capitulating to the right-wing framing on the issue, considering it to be a issue of national security, which is like you've given the game up at that point. You've ceded territory for no reason to the right wing on immigration, and now all of a sudden all you've done is basically legitimize their position that it is actually a matter of national security when it's not. When there are studies done on this issue, not many, but the ones that do, studies that have been conducted on the matter show that undocumented immigrants are responsible for less crime per capita than documented U.S.-born individuals. So the idea that like they are causing extra crime is silly. So
No, it totally is. And what's even crazier about it is that we are in such a desperate need for people to fill huge swaths
It is
of labor in
AOC.
the United States. I mean, so many of these Republican states are rolling back child labor laws right now. Like,
See, this is a really big deal too, because they're rolling back child labor to allow kids to work. But the other thing they're doing, like Arkansas, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, they passed a law where child workers, you don't have to verify their age. Now, why would they do that? Why would they not require age verification? If they don't have to verify age, they don't have to look at their citizenship. They don't have to see their papers. They can put undocumented workers to work. So Arkansas is going to allow undocumented workers by not having to verify age. They're doing it very deceptively because undocumented workers are part of the economy of every state.
Are getting hurt in meat processing facilities because they're rolling back child labor laws because they're so desperate for workers, and they're so xenophobic that they don't want immigrants to contribute to these local economies. But I mean, even when I was on the road with Bernie in 2020, we'd go to places, Nebraska, Iowa, etc. And a lot of these communities that are feeding the entire country, like core, you want to talk about a national security issue. One big national security issue is that our increased inability to feed ourselves if our labor force and our workforce starts to fall apart, not be able to get fulfilled. Plus, you do that, plus the issues with climate change, with people not even being able to work the same hours because it's getting so hot during harvest season. These are the actual structural
They're huge
problems to address. As long as we do not actually expand people's ability to get in the, people talk about getting in line, there's no line. But if we made a line, if we actually created an ability for people to actually become a citizen in some sort of and apply for citizenship in a normal way, that you don't have to be in get a 30-year wait in order to come to this country, then we'd be able to actually have the labor infrastructure necessary to serve huge parts of the country. But it's it is wild. And the depressive forces on wages is very real too. I've spoken with a lot of our building trades and our union workers in construction, and you have all of these real estate developers.
Dude, she's so smart,
acting in very predatory
she really
ways,
is
trying to.
I love AOC. I hope she's president one day.
These labor is very dangerous for them because they're not covered by OSHA.
I love her, dude. She's so good.
Spate a couple years ago where so many undocumented people were dying on these job sites, and it is a lot, and that's what's turned a lot of unions around on immigration, like the Teamsters notoriously, ironically, but they notoriously had a very different immigration.
I'm looking at your chat messages.
They
You've never really said anything that was valuable.
Want to join a union,
and if you've been negative multiple times.
We wouldn't have it would see everyone's wages down.
Later.
It forced them to change.
Time for some.
Illegal.
Time for some conservative tears.
That specifically details how the Bracero program and onward, how America had a plan to basically create a never-ending pool of labor that they.
Dude, I'll be honest, I would have probably let that guy go, but when I looked at his messages, it was dude, he was in here 2 years ago making fun of my head. So of course he's just being a douche. Right? We're getting rid of all the douches, bro. We are. Hold on. I want to hear this part because I got distracted.
But it would actually raise them up. It forced them to change their stance on immigration.
Noam Chomsky's daughter, Aviva Chomsky, wrote a phenomenal book on this called Undocumented, How Immigration Became Illegal. For those of you who are interested, that specifically details how the Bracero program and onward, how America had a plan to basically create a never-ending pool of labor that they could hyper-exploit in comparison to the documented American labor force. And use it as a depressing, See, that's really it. There's two things that go on here with this is one, Republicans like to fight over the border because it's a way for them to scare middle American people, and they can ravage the economies in middle America and blame it on immigration. And all the white people are afraid their towns aren't going to be white anymore. So it's a huge political ploy. But two is the fact that all that undocumented labor, they get put to work for less money. Those people get exploited. Two-tier labor structure to further depress wages in the United States of America. It's always been.
Do I like
the
Hasan?
status of not being documented is a deliberate one. caused by those who want to increase profit margins for capital owners.
He's
And
nailing
not only
it.
that, but if there was any sort of real restriction, if we did have this like truly white nativist, white supremacist attitude towards
economies
like,
would
black and brown
crumble
people coming into the country, then you would see significant punishments towards those like Purdue and I'm talking about the chicken processors, like the agricultural industry.
So many
in its
undocumented workers
entirety that relies on undocumented.
That's just it. Like, he brings a real point that they don't actually give a shit, because I'm telling you guys, every time you sit down at your table, if you eat chicken or if you eat fruit, you are eating food that was provided to you by undocumented people. Every chicken processing plant in America is staffed with large numbers of undocumented people. Fruit was taken off the vine and brought to your table by undocumented people. The reason why they don't want the path to citizenship is these companies don't want to have to pay them livable wages, bro.
Documented labor.
It's a
and very
scam.
specifically designs their profit margins around undocumented labor that even will, in certain instances, call ICE on their own plants if like the workers there decide to demand back pay or complain.
Dude, that's crazy. Yeah, Century, you're not wrong, bro. We are heading into late stage capitalism where that divide is getting real crazy. And Scottish Toker, I love Hasan. Okay, I do. I love Hasan. He and I are very different. Okay, we agree on a lot of he's just really like measured. Like, I feel like Hasan is the kind of guy who could talk about where somebody who's on the fence and maybe wondering which side they belong on, he could intellectually win them over. And he very much believes that by reasoning with people, you're going to win people over. And I love and respect that so much, because I don't really have that. I am like, if you're not on board, get the fuck out of here. Oh yeah, you say pro-Trump in my chat, fuck you, you're booted, you're gone. Get on, right? But like, Hasan is like, no, I'm going to convince you. I'm going to appeal to your intellectual sensibilities. And I love that about him, that he, you know, he has this ability that I don't have. I'm a fighter. I'm the guy that's going to go in and I'm going to get rid of the chaff.
Too much. And the reality is, like, if we did really want to punish, if we really wanted to stop undocumented immigration in this country, then we would punish the corporations, but we don't. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing anyway. I don't think that this country has no more room for additional people, and there's no
we
lump
need
of labor
people.
unless
We have room.
you create a two-tier process between undocumented workers and documented laborers. Anyway, let's get back to Trump, though.
Dropping bombs all over the place. I'm so tired of politics. Can we devote 6 minutes to success? Okay.
Dude, what is he talking about? Oh, Jesus.
So,
He's on his right-wing podcast. There are
through tremendous. I've had
really
great
is.
success. I've had
He's
it
gonna
in
start
He's
entertainment.
gonna start talking about how to get a girlfriend and stuff.
Dude, there's no way that Donald Trump stopped the politics. Like, everything the right wing does is politics and culture
He's
war.
gonna,
I ran
he's
for
gonna start
office.
selling
What
his
office
course.
did you run for? If you didn't work really hard, there is very little chance that I would be standing here right now. Another part of success is something I learned from my father. I had a wonderful father, wonderful parents. I'm lucky. You got to be lucky. You got to get
Success.
great parents.
Be born
If you're going to
healthy.
spend your
Yeah,
life work to
Bro,
do it.
be
I mean,
best.
Your father
Sunday,
was
you go to
massively
church in the
wealthy, and
morning,
so
and then
were
you go to
you.
work.
This is like, I don't think
And
this
I know some
works
people
with
that don't believe
people.
in
I think
working on
like
Sunday.
you're talking about
Dude, yeah, 400 million. I hate to say this, but any kid who gets given 400 million is going to be successful, unless they're a moron and they bankrupt every company and they have to get loans from Deutsche Bank and launder money through a bankrupted casino. Oh, wait. Oh, dude, that's Donald Trump.
success in business is going to only remind them that like he was born with
God.
a silver
That's
spoon.
one
He
married.
totally was born. I
He
mean,
was
he has
married for a long time,
multi-generational
decades.
wealth.
He said,
And
"Pop,
it's
I'm not
like-
gonna be
It's
there."
true.
Wild to me. Well, here's the thing that I
Because
love
his
is
work
that
made him happy,
His
but
his grandfather was wealthy. Okay, Fred Trump is his dad, but Fred Trump's dad, Trump's grandfather, was the original wealthy Trump. And you know what he ran? He ran brothels. He ran sex worker businesses, his grandfather. And then his dad moved into real estate, but Fred Trump was low income real estate. And specifically, his dad was kind of like Elon Musk, where he went where the government contracts are. And he got that government money to build low income housing. And then he didn't have to really take care of it because it was low income tenants. So it was cheap, high profit margin. And then Trump basically was like, no, I want to get into this fancy stuff, and eventually just ruined everything he touched.
With people like this, they talk so much about working hard, and they're like, oh, you got to work really hard. Like
They
work
never
really
work hard.
Ask someone like that what they did. Like, what did your days actually look like? What did you actually do?
Donald
And it's
Trump
like,
has
they,
never
what,
worked
like,
a day in
took
his
a
life.
phone call, like,
Right.
oh, wow, you had like a really long lunch with somebody. Like,
Yeah.
that to them is what work is, like schmoozing with other wealthy people.
Yeah, golfing.
It is. His idea of work is he was at the office for 16 hours, but he was literally 8 of those 16 hours, he was in the office trying to bang a model that he saw walking through Trump Tower, or taking a 4-hour lunch with some building developer from Atlantic City. These guys, they fucking don't work. Dude, I know a guy who had multiple McDonald's. The guy just didn't work, man. His employees were working. But the homie who owned the McDonald's was not working, boss. He was dialing phone numbers and having conversations with other guys who weren't working. He was making deals. That ain't work. The guys at
Cutting
the
checks
top,
on
they don't
Musk
work.
buying Twitter and like ruining it permanently because he showed everyone that, you know, billionaires with multiple jobs don't actually do anything because he's tweeting all damn day. He tweets more than I do, you know, and that's what Trump used to do when he was president and even when
Yeah.
he wasn't president. So
And I'd say, how did you price in those days, Dad? He said pricing was everything. He said, I'd sell a house for $3,999.99.
there ain't no way.
And that one penny
real
made the
estate
difference
tycoon
between selling it and not. One
is
penny.
talking about
if I
house
made
prices.
it $4,000, I wouldn't sell. But psychologically, $3,999.99.
This dude, I
And
can't
guys
even
wouldn't sell 'em. But he
understate
used to
how
tell me
much
that one penny
of a
cent,
slumlord model like
Yeah.
that he represents.
He's such a
It is
douchebag.
like we talk about
Like-
so much about rent going up. I mean, in New York City, it
Dude,
is actually
everybody knows
insane.
if you
Across the
price it
country,
$2.99
actually,
instead of $3,
Only
rent
5%.
it's
more
psychologically more
According to
attractive.
Curve.com, only 5% of New Yorkers can actually, or I think like only 5% of availability of rental properties is in the average New Yorker salary range.
Yeah, it's a huge amount.
I
of
wanna live in New
transactions
York
now
really bad,
for
guys.
businesses that are being bought in New York City, all cash.
I don't think
All
I'll ever
cash
be able to
transactions.
afford it.
It is so unstable and it's so precarious, even just structurally for the city. Like for all these people who are buying all cash properties, like who is going to be able to even participate in the service economy that these people like to luxuriate in?
Yeah,
When only
nobody,
5%
bro.
of the current housing market is even affordable to everyday people. I mean, it's,
Dude, when you think about it, like, dude, who's even buying New York property paying cash? Seriously, people going in spending $50 million in cash.
this is like, it's actually crazy. There's a coalition, there's like a left coalition in the state assembly that they're trying to push for a lot more housing protections. It didn't quite go through in this session, but a lot of our DSA state level electeds were fighting for like good cause eviction and a lot of other tenant protections as well.
Yeah.
And Bill Levitt was
Virginia
there, and I was
is
in the real estate business,
it's
so I knew who
purple,
he was, and you
right?
probably
It's a little bit
indirectly
blue,
know
a
who
little bit red,
everybody
but
was shunning him a
generally
little bit.
liberal.
Nobody cared
In the
about him
cities.
anymore.
I mean,
But I did, and I went over to him.
the way it kind of works like this century is in America, every city is liberal because they're diverse. They want everybody to have a good life. And then every area where there's not a city, where it's, 92% white people and they don't have a great economy and it's not diverse, those people are Republicans and they don't like immigrants and they don't like gays and they don't like abortion and they want to bang their Bibles. So that's the American thing. So what happens is, as the city populations outpopulate those rural areas, they all become blue states. And that's just how it works in America.
And I say, hi, Mr. Levitt. I'm Donald Trump. I know it. I was doing great. I was sort of like a hot guy. I was hot as a biscuit.
Oh, my God,
I
dude.
think I was hotter than I am now when I became president, okay? I don't know.
Oh, my God.
I said to somebody, was I hotter before or hotter now? I don't know. Who the hell
I don't know. Did
Who
you?
the hell knows?
You're.
Don't know, like,
Come on.
who sits this and
But
watches
he knew
this
who
and
I
is
was.
like,
And I
I'm
went up, I
inspired.
said, so,
Like, this
are
is.
you okay? And
Dude, there's no way. I love what she says. Nobody is inspired by this. People listen to this, and he's just a reality TV star who's going to say, F everybody you don't like. And they're like, yeah, F everybody you don't like. He's like, I'm going to make their life difficult. And they're like, yeah, make their life difficult. Nobody's inspired by this. These people, they're not even listening. They're just cheering at the nasty names.
Does it for me.
I'm not,
Right?
And finally,
They're
you have
drinking
to take pride
beers.
in your accomplishments. Do not take for granted what you've achieved. Forget it. It's over. It's good for your confidence, but it's over. Go forward. Think to the future, not to the past, but
This is
learn
like
from the
graduation.
past.
This is like his commencement.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is he even talking about?
For Trump University.
This is very different. This is very different than his other speeches. I've
It
never
is.
seen him talk about success this much.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably because like he wanted to recalculate, like retriangulate his speech to the audience that he's listening to that he's speaking
Yeah.
to.
Right.
So I don't think he can be like as racist, I guess he assumes, 'cause he's in
Yeah,
the
I think
Bronx.
that's what it is. He had to like cut the whole like racism bit, and so he's
Like-
gonna try to do this like
Normally he would be spending this entire block talking about migrants and
He
how
would.
they're, like rapists.
Yeah,
and
dude, we've
murderers
seen
and
him.
Stuff like
I
that.
find it.
We've
find
watched
it
his
interesting,
rallies.
though, because they did want to like seize on and try to exploit the asylum issue and like all of the busing from DeSantis to New York City. They wanted to use that. They wanted to like kind of seize on the public safety stuff, and he's not really doing that here. He's like decided
So,
to do this.
Century,
I
yeah,
don't even know, like,
Biden has a really good chance of winning.
inspirational
He
type
does.
of
He-
thing, and
I mean, if the
wonder what
election were
ends up
today,
that recalculation.
He's got a lot of people mad at him today.
Ultimately, the broader
Because of
New York
Israel,
community cares more about inflation,
Palestine.
and just hits Biden harder. He can tell poor
Right.
people. He'll tie it back to how. See, he's like tying it back to how
Yeah.
he was
When I
making
take
America
office,
great,
we are going to
and the
restore
economy was
public
good.
safety in
Considering that
New
that's the
York.
number
Let's
one
start
most
stopping
salient issue for Biden voters as well as Republican
Totally.
voters.
It's hard because there is this economy thing because we're still reeling from the pandemic. So Trump has that economy thing. And if I were to put a crystal ball out, I would say that in October, Saudi Arabia is going to cut oil production, and we're probably going to see a huge gas price hike a month before the election. Like they're going to try, some of these world leaders and companies here in America are going to try to pull some because the billionaires want Donald Trump. They do. They want low taxes. They want to try and bust up the unions. They want to remove regulations. They want free reign to keep buying up property and to buy up the farmland and buy up water sources. There's a lot of global business interests that they want this guy to come in and just bull in the China shop. But there's serious human rights issues that we could face. And so I am believing that much of America is going to absorb this nonsense and they're going to be mad at Biden and they're going to be pissed off, but they're going to see his nonstop chaos stoking and they're going to get more informed. Let's look at the past 90 days. Project 2025. You see this? People are starting to find out about this. They're starting to care about this. Project 2025, which is this idea of Christian nationalizing our government. People are starting to pay attention to this. And I just believe in us. I believe that we are smarter than this. That, yeah, there is a contingent of people who want to put Trump the bull in the China shop of American progress, and they just want to burn it all down. I'm actually making a video right now, Century, called 1,000 Reasons to Not Vote for Donald Trump. That's going to be coming in June, maybe July. It's going to be coming, going to be ramping up right before this election. It's actually going to be playing 24 hours a day on this channel. where you can tune in and see some of this. I believe a lot of people are going to be working to not fall for this because Donald Trump, he's a reality TV show playing the greatest hits of everything that we know didn't work. He was in office with both houses of Congress and they didn't do anything. All they did was a tax cut for the wealthy that added $8 trillion to the deficit. All this he's saying he's going to do on day one, he could have done day one 2017. He didn't. All he did was sit on Twitter on the shitter, crooked Hillary, crooked Joe Biden, crooked Obama, blah, blah, blah. I'm firing everybody within 20 feet of me. Fake news, blah, blah, blah. And I believe that as a country, we, the women, and the people of color and the LGBTQ are going to come together at the last minute and we're going to bounce this because there's 2 Supreme Court seats that are going to come in the next term. So I believe Biden's going to win, but we are going to have to fight some of the gnarliest disinformation, man. Dude, Twitter is a hole of Elon. We're getting red pilled from Twitter and from right-wing news media and fake news sites and Andrew Tate, who supposedly is a Muslim in Romania. They're trying to scare young men. And young men are getting Trumpified. They're getting red pilled. They don't even realize what a bullshit artist he is, sadly, because he's appealing to their anger. And I get why young men are angry. Dude, they should be angry. It's going to be hard for any of them to provide for themselves and their families if they want them in this world, bro. But we can heal that together. But yeah, I believe Biden's going to win.
About, like migrant panic, which
it's going to be dirty
really
though.
Well in like southern
called the migrant
southern
crime.
campaign
Crime happening.
Here he goes.
Never mind, he's getting into it.
The
now.
migrant crime. He found it.
Venezuela was a very crime-ridden country.
Here we go.
They just announced
He's going to say that Venezuela is giving us all their criminals and their people from mental institutions. Here it comes.
a month ago 67, but now they just announced 72%
Decrease
in crime
because
in Venezuela.
What? All those
In
criminals are
Caracas,
coming
they
here.
Took their gang members, they took their drug dealers.
They're
They're
sending
taking
them to
everybody
us.
That's a problem, and they're dumping them into the United States of America. We're like a dumping ground.
Dude. Oh,
But
there it
many
is.
Countries are doing
The
that.
greatest
I would say
hits.
Eventually, all countries would be doing that. Large numbers of people
Dude.
are coming in from China. And if you look at these people, did you see them? They are physically fit.
Yep.
They're 19 to 25.
Military
Almost
age
everyone
men.
is a male. And they look like fighting age. I think they're building an army. They had
There
29,000
it
people
is.
over the last.
Dude.
Oh
I
my
think
God.
they're building. They want to get us from
Such
within.
bullshit.
I think they're
Wow.
building an
Dude.
army. This is not. You know, it's interesting. Did you see them? They all have tents. They all have gas-fired stoves. I mean, this is
Dude.
not like an illegal immigrant. This is they're building
Gas-fired
something. They have something
stoves?
in mind. We will immediately
What?
begin
No, he's
the
not
largest
being
criminal
serious.
deportation operation in our country's history.
He's just appealing to the idea that, like, it's us against them. Dude, there's nothing about this man is serious. Again, he says he's going to deport 11 million people. If you deported 1,000 people a day, it would take 30 years to get 11 million people gone.
Because this situation is sustainable
Like that dude-
by no country. No
The
country
hands that
can
you can
sustain
see
this.
are all black and brown hands that are going, yeah, hell yeah. Like the ones that you can see. It's like the rest
This
of the
is-
country would view them just
As
like
we
they
speak,
have
there are hundreds
very
of thousands of
famously on
migrants
numerous occasions told you, Alexandria, that you know, you don't belong here, that you're not a legacy American. It is not done on the virtue of your immigration status. You've been in this, your family's been in this country for longer than, you know, Donald Trump's family has. That you know, you don't belong here, that you're not a legacy American. It is not done on the virtue of your immigration status. You've been in this, your family's
Right.
been in
It's
this country
done
for
because
longer
she's
than,
Hispanic,
you know,
because
Donald
of
Trump's
the color of
family
her
has.
skin.
Seems like he is seen as more of a legacy American than you for some weird reason. A lot of those people don't recognize that, I
The
think.
17 million people,
No, no.
and these are
I mean,
not
this is- things get
necessarily
taken
people
super
that are gonna help us
seriously
as a country. We
because
wanna
I
be
mean
nice. We
not
wanna be
even
respectful.
like
Places we
separate
don't
just
have
from an
any-
immigration question. This is kind of the groundwork of fascism, right, where you start to
It really is.
not only identify targets and social classes that
It's exactly what she's saying. It is the start of fascism. Like when he says we're going to deport 11 million immigrants. So what does that mean? That means they're looking for 11 million dark-skinned people from China or what he said, Venezuela. So they're going to go around looking at everybody that looks like they might be from China or Venezuela, and they're going to say, prove you belong here. And if you can't, we're whisking you away until you can. That's a problem. There is never a point in America where I want someone driving around looking for black or Asian or white or people with crosses around their neck or whomever and making them prove that they deserve to be here. She's right on.
that you seek to subjugate, but also this idea of building up a kind of an internal army, right, in order to justify his continued use of and building up of CBP.
You tell him, baby.
Kind of
Let's go.
Wielding Homeland
Let's
Security
go.
forces, which notoriously don't have a good jurisdiction. And we've seen this. We saw this around Black Lives Matter protests, even before that with the Dakota XL pipeline and everything that's going on. It is the use of Homeland Security, which the resources get pumped into because of this anti-immigrant rhetoric, and then they turn around with these new resources due to that political toxicity.
Prove you
and
belong
they
here.
wield it on journalists. They wield it on surveillance of activists. They wield it on all sorts of cities and different places where people are organizing around grassroots mass popular movements. I mean, this is like just the playbook here. This is the playbook here.
BORTAC, the Special Weapons and Tactics unit for ICE, for CBP, that gets training literally like overseas, was very much functional during the Portland wing of the Black Lives Matter protests. They were, black bagging and tagging people in unmarked vans.
They had drones over these protests. I mean, this is the part that's like actually quite scary, quite scary.
Illegal immigration, but this has to do with illegal immigration.
It's dangerous.
And
Dude, it's dangerous.
I think it's very accurate, actually.
Oh, is he
and it's
doing the
very
snake
sad.
story?
Oh my God.
We'll
See,
do
this
it,
is a
and
classic.
Some of you have heard it, and
Okay,
many
I
of
don't
you
know this
haven't.
one.
But we're going to do it right now for the great people of the Bronx.
You knew
and elsewhere.
what I was when you
love the
brought me
Bronx.
in. It's a poem.
love
It's a
the
fascist
Bronx.
poem that he loves reading.
Is this that
Are you ready?
scorpion thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
I don't
On her
buy into
work-
conspiracy
And
theories,
you know
boss.
what? You know what this is all about.
You know what I
right?
mean?
Did you know? You've heard this before. Have you heard it?
See, this is
Wait,
you
there's
guys
people
want
here.
this.
On her way to work, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor half-frozen
like,
snake. His
dang
pretty
it.
colored skin had been all
Off
frosted
piece of
with the
paper.
dew.
Dude, what is
Poor
he
thing.
doing, bro? Donald
I'll
Trump.
take you in, and I'll take care of
Fascist
you.
poetry,
Take
man.
me in, oh tender woman.
thought
Take
I'd see
me in,
it.
for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She wrapped him up all cozy
Dude,
in a
this
comfortable silk
stupid.
and laid him by the fireside with some honey and some milk. She hurried home from work that night, and soon as she arrived, she found the pretty snake she'd taken in had been revived. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake. She clutched him to her bosom. You're so
This,
beautiful, she cried.
A chain
But if I
email
hadn't
that
brought you
old
in by
people
now,
used to
you
forward to
truly
each
would have
other all the
died.
time, like back
Literally.
in the early 2000s.
This is like some boomer right
But
here.
instead of saying thank you, ma'am, the snake gave her a vicious bite. Take me in, oh tender woman, take me in for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman, sighed the vicious snake.
Dude, the crazy shit about it is Donald Trump is the snake, bro. Mr. Grab him by the pussy, and he's reading this. He's so dumb. He's reading weird boomer poetry. She called it fascist poetry. That was a great way of putting it. It's ridiculous.
Saved you, cried the woman, and you've bitten me, but why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die. Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake before you took me in. Right? So when we allow people from prisons, when we allow people from insane asylums and mental institutions, which are being emptied out all over the world. You know, their prison populations are going way down.
my
You know
God.
why? Because they're being dumped into the United States. When we are allowing terrorists at numbers that we've never seen before, remember the snake. Remember the snake. Because you're going to get bitten like you never got bitten before, and you need a new president, and you have to get rid of this person who is not a smart person, not a respected person, and doesn't have a clue what the hell is happening. In recent years, we have also seen our city
Jesus.
destroyed by bad, radical left, pro-crime policy that virtually everyone, Republican, Democrat, Independent, everyone, you all know it's a disaster. You know.
By the way, I'd just like to remind you how we just watched a video not 15 minutes ago of Ted Cruz talking about how America's the most free and prosperous and safest country in the world.
Answer that. Why is this
Why
country?
is it that people come from all over the world to America? Because it's the freest, most prosperous, safest country on earth.
Maybe
Oh, wait. What did he say there? It was straight from Teddy Cruz's mouth. He took his mouth off of Trump's ass for 1 minute to let us know how safe America is.
The names of these lunatics.
This was the OG failure, in my opinion. Like, even in the midterms, when Democrats also capitulated to the crime panic, which was completely fabricated by local media and also the very same police departments. Then
Crime's down.
Turned around and were like,
Way
actually,
down.
we didn't get defunded, and also actually crime is down.
My
Because
favorite
it
is Walgreens.
Yeah, it is. And yes, Walgreens CFO very famously publicly apologized for saying, okay, maybe we exaggerated a little bit the way that
lot.
crime was, the way that crime was causing us to shut down our brick and mortar retail stores. Ridiculous stuff. And that should have been the first indication that like capitulation to right-wing framing is obviously going to be devastating policy, which in my opinion caused the likes of Lee Zeldin and even George Santos, who I apparently is at this rally right now.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that.
To flip a district and also to gain more legitimacy, more prominence in New York politics. There's no way.
And I also want to work with your mayor and your governor, happen to be Democrats, to clean up the homeless encampments so that you can once again enjoy your parks and your public spaces. Right now, you don't have public spaces. They're occupied by migrants in tents. Pleasures
A
as
public
simple as a walk
right
in the
now.
park or watching your children.
What is he
again
talking
play
about? He's
Turn left.
literally
Actually, we
in
didn't
a
get
public
defunded.
space.
Democrat, Independent, everyone, you all know it's a disaster. You know the names of these lunatics.
This was the OG failure, in my opinion. Like,
So sorry, I accidentally took us back to the beginning like an idiot. But the funny thing about this is how I think Hasan is about to point it out. All these stores saying it was because of shoplifting, but then they've all been outed as liars, that they're closing stores not because of shoplifting. And really, if you want to look at smash and grab and that kind of crime, it's not because of Democratic policy. It's because of Amazon. Buying cheap online where there's no tracking of where this is coming from. When that becomes your norm, any organized crime is going to steal and then sell online. If you really want to stop the thieving, we have to do something about how people sell online, and we have to be regulating that.
actually, crime is down.
And I also want to work with your mayor and your governor, happen to be Democrats, to clean up the homeless encampments so that you can once again enjoy your parks and your public spaces. Right now.
See, we don't need to clean up homeless encampments. We need to end homelessness. The homeless encampments are a sign of this outrageous gap in the cost of living. I've seen it here in Portland. We don't have a homelessness problem in Portland because of bad Democratic policies. We have a homelessness problem because of the price of housing here going outrageously up. The homelessness is a symptom of this late stage capitalism. We need to stop hedge funds and corporations from buying housing to prevent people from being able to own 100 apartment buildings.
Public spaces, they're occupied by migrants in tents. Pleasures as
Dude,
simple as a walk
right
in the
now.
park,
It's
or watching
outrageous.
your children again play in a little league game.
It's just
will
like
come roaring back,
it
and they're gonna
almost.
come
I
back
mean,
very
he
quickly.
attributes
Your
all the
lifestyle
homelessness
and
to
American
the
dream
migrant
will be with you
crisis,
once again, and we're
when in
gonna bring
fact
it
it's
back, the
obviously
American
born out
dream.
of
You don't have an
material
American dream,
conditions
right?
and
Yeah.
the fact that
the housing costs. There's a direct
housing
correlation
costs.
between
Your
rising
children
rents
and your
and the
country
home
will
and
be
the,
even
and
Yeah.
the size
prouder
of the
of
homeless
you.
population.
Years ago,
Cost of living.
It's bad for the people who need help, and it's bad for the people of our city, and it's a horrible, horrible way to live.
Horrible.
I want to work in
Horrible.
partnership with your local leaders, Democrats, pretty much all, and move the severely mentally ill off your streets and
See, it's funny how he's like saying he wants to work with the Democrat leaders, but no, he doesn't. He's lying, and he's proven it by the fact that there was a bipartisan border bill that everybody, the Border Patrol Union, everyone wanted to work with this bill, and he tanked it. And in fact, we've seen the senators going on CNN saying they're going to vote against their own bill to capitulate to this guy. He's a liar.
back into a place where they can get help and the help that they
jail is
desperately need.
put them.
yeah, which by the
They
way,
they put them all in Rikers, and that's when they talk about people being in and out. It's because they take people with severe mental illnesses who have no recourse, that have zero support systems in society, then are invariably and very often left to the streets, and then they're just called they just call the police on them because there's no health care, there's no social safety net, and they just go in and out of Rikers every time. And then as the weather gets cold, a lot of them intentionally go to Rikers because they have no other place to go and need a warm meal.
Sucks.
I mean, this is a cycle that we see over and over and over again because we've systematically defunded any sort of public healthcare system. And in New York City specifically,
Dude,
we had a really robust network
we
of
need
public hospitals.
public healthcare.
We still do have
We
public
do.
hospitals. Oh, and here's Ruben Diaz, who is a
Oh my God.
notorious homophobe, misogynist local elected official, father of the former borough president, but they actually have very different set of politics in terms of how they enacted their policies.
I used to be city council member.
Dude,
Today I'm
He was my city
definitely.
councilman.
for various reasons. I want to tell AOC.
There we go.
Oh,
What's up? What's up?
let's go. AOC for president.
he loves
Let's
it.
go.
He does love it.
This morning, she intended to become a prophet.
Oh, it's because
And
it was
she
raining
said-
this morning, and I said God is good.
Even God doesn't want
He's
Trump in
a
the
pastor.
Bronx
He's a
because
pastor.
he's going
He's
to
a pastor,
pray.
and he has all these he has this network of churches.
Madam,
Dude, these pastors are toxic, bro.
Listen,
you
let
have
him
become
cook.
a
So
false
homophobic.
prophet.
False prophet.
Yeah, if we want to talk false prophets, buddy,
Look
to your
at
right.
What a beautiful day. That means that not only you guys want Trump in the Bronx, because
Oh, here he comes.
we're gonna measure
Here he
that
comes. He's going to
with
say,
the weather,
God wants
then
Trump,
I
baby.
would say humbly that even God wants you in the Bronx.
There we go. We knew that was coming.
This guy's awesome.
Yeah. I think I got to
Nassau
bounce
County,
soon.
the county
Hassan.
executive, Nassau
Okay.
County, Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you so
Blakeman.
much
Come
for
up,
having me
Bruce,
on.
for a second.
Appreciate
Come
it.
up, Bruce.
Thank you for coming on. We're also fundraising right now. Creators for Palestine. Like
Let's
a bunch
go!
Oh,
of-
amazing.
There it
Yeah,
is,
like,
baby.
50 plus YouTubers have gotten together to raise money for numerous
Dude,
charities that are
Hassan
currently
has
working on the
raised a
ground.
lot of money.
And we've raised 63,000 so far.
That's incredible.
With a goal of $1
Yeah,
million.
you see it right here,
which,
663K.
you guys can also donate to.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you so much for coming on. And
Dude, we love
you're
AOC,
very
man.
Tapped into
I do.
what's going on online. So
She's
I'm glad we were able to do
amazing.
this,
Dude,
and
I think it's so
hopefully,
amazing.
we'll
I just realized, though, I would love to have AOC on my program when I'm big. I'm not big right now. We have 20 viewers. We're brand new. But I realize I'm going to have to cut down on my swearing, bro. If I'm going into politics, I got to cut down on the swearing a little bit. I'm going to have to grow. I have to grow now. I have to grow up a little bit.